Welcome back to another edition of the podcast. And tonight's our Game Week 23 National League predictions, I do believe. Is that the halfway point? Over the halfway point now through the season, Paul?
I think it must be, mustn't it? I don't know. I have to work it out. It must be.
Knowing me, I've probably gone wrong with the game weeks. But yeah, it's brilliant to see everyone tonight. Paul, firstly, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, mate. Are you all right?
Yeah, not too bad.
Recovered from Tuesday's result?
I think a lot of our fans have over-exaggerated, with the reaction to that. Of course, no sides likes conceding in the last minute, but what I will say is I'll give a lot of credit to Fylde. They were a lot better than what I firstly thought. They were the Fylde side that I expected when I were doing my predictions that turned up, very, very dangerous going forward. And if they can tighten up defensively, I don't think they've got any issues of surviving this season. In my opinion, they're definitely the best side from sides that have got promoted this season that I've seen at the share and on the streams so far. So coming up tonight, of course, it's our game week predictions. We're going to do that later on in the show, go into detail into every single game. We've also got a few topics to discuss. One topic, and I need to credit Blondie Blue, who I believe is a Chesterfield fan, who came in and he said, why are promoted sides struggling? Now, that's a topic we're going to speak about. And we're going to have a bit of a debate on that, Paul. See what your take is on that, if you think it's just a bit of a coincidence or if you genuinely think there's something behind making that step up. Because at the start of the season, the sides that got promoted were established sides that you would thought would establish themselves, apart from Oxford, maybe. We've also got to talk about Barnet and what's happening there, because it's 3 defeats in a row now for Barnet. They've lost the last 2 home games. Prior to the last 2 home games, they were unbeaten at home all season. We've also got a question, is Norwood the best striker in the National League? Now, that's going to be a debate tonight. And, of course, we're going to speak a bit about Oldham and York as well, particularly Oldham, and about them, because they got a very impressive win last night against Barnet. And then, of course, we're going to speak about everything that you've got to say. Also, I forgot to mention, we have got a Working fan coming on later on in the show to speak about Working's chances of maybe regaining some form and who's going to be the next manager there now that Darryl Sile has left the club. Because I've been looking at potential managers today, and it's quite hard to find a realistic manager that's going to come in that's going to make a difference there, if that makes sense. Before we do that, though, guys, we're going to have a look at the live chat. Starting things off with Chris Fondop on the intro. Love it. Yeah, he had to. Did anyone see his run that he did, Paul? Did you see that?
Yeah, I think that was very much tongue in cheek, wasn't it? The sort of thing you do when you're winning a game and probably playing well in yourself. You'd already scored a goal, and they certainly seem to exploit that high line and sort of the lack of defending Barnet showed last night. And I think Fondop was just taking the mickey a little bit.
Do you reckon? Because he got faster when he did it. So I think there might have been something behind that, to be fair. But yeah, we need to talk about Barnet's defending, because that was horrendous last night. To say they're second in the league, and like I said, I can see why they have been second, but it's a topic we're going to come on to, but I'm going to speak about my problems with them at the moment. And then we've got Luke who's coming.
Hello, Luke. Hello, gents. What a brilliant week. If you're a Gateshead fan, seems like you're always late, as usual. Yeah. Common trend now. No pressure whatsoever, lads. You know the drill already. Yeah, we do know the drill. What are we going to suggest for Gateshead this week? But listen, we spoke with the chat from Gateshead on Tuesday, didn't we? And we sort of discussed them in depth, and they sort of followed it up again with the win on the week in the week. And they're going to be a dark horse, aren't they? If they can keep their squad together in January, don't get too many injuries or suspensions, as we sort of pointed out. But Christ, they're doing very well considering they lost a really good manager in Williamson. They've bounced back with Elliott, and a good friend of mine who knows the National League has sort of suggested to me that Gateshead are going to get promoted. So bold shout, but they're certainly heading in the right direction.
The thing is, you look at it at the moment, and of course, our opinions will probably keep changing. I don't know if you agree with me now. I know you've said all along that Chesterfield are going to go on to win the league, but you said that you think it's going to be a close one thing. Do you still agree with that now, with what's happened recently?
No, I mean, it's really hard. It's hard to disagree with you now, Luke, in terms of what Barnet have done in the last 3 games. I mean, we can talk about Barnet in terms of what they showed last night, and the worrying trend for them is they're letting goals in, aren't they? They've let 10 in the last 3. I think they've only won 1 in the last 5. And someone on Twitter actually suggested that although they were second in the league, they relied on 3 last-minute goals. I think they beat a team that went down to 9 men and drew with a team with 10 men or something like that. So, as much as they showed resilience and they showed commitment till the end of the game to gain points, was that covering up some cracks that are now appearing? Who knows? I mean, they're a good footballing team. I personally didn't see the game last night. I obviously followed it a lot across Twitter and what people were saying, and it was hard to see them losing by that score. I think I put them down for a draw, but they could easily have lost, which they did. I think the worrying thing is that they're defending, Luke, isn't it? You can't defend like that. And listen, you could see this as a reason, but they lost their assistant coach called John Dreyer in the summer or early on in the season, and he was a very well established defender in the Football League and may have even played in the Premier League. And having him there as that defensive mind, which he may well have been, I have no idea, but it could be a suggestion. Lost him, and they bring in Connor Smith, who's a midfield player. And I've seen Dean Brennan teams over the years play, when they were at Wealdstone and they won the National League South, play in a similar way that they played last night. And sometimes you get picked off if teams start to work you out.
Yeah, well, we're going to come back to Barnet. We're going to speak about them shortly. There's a lot of people in, so we'll come back to your messages very shortly. But I'm pleased to be joined that we've got a special guest on the podcast tonight to speak a bit about Woking, because they're a club that, although a lot's been happening, it's quite hard at the moment to really identify who will be the next manager there. But Howie, firstly, how are you doing, and how's it been at Woking at the moment?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Hope everyone's well. It's definitely been a tough season, I think, after the highs of last season, our best season in however long. I think the expectation was very high, and the fact that we're 18th in the league and we haven't scored a goal at home in a month and a half, amongst a lot of other things, I think it's quite tough. So it's kind of now we've got to wait and see what really happens from here.
You put the stats there. That I don't think me and Paul, I saw in your face, Paul, there you were shocked. It's like we know it's been going bad, of course, because we look at the results. I'm not trying to put salt in the wounds here, but when you look at the results at the moment, it is all red. When you look at like the games and all being defeats, and clearly there's something going wrong there, and something did need to change. And I don't know what your thoughts are on Del Sal's leaving. Is that something that you agree with, or?
At the end of the day, I think football's a business, and you got to make the right decision for the club. I believe there is a 3-year plan that the owners have put out, and it's not going that way at the moment. So I don't know what's going on behind the scenes or what happened. I mean, he's a cracking manager, and there's no doubt about that. But there's a combination of a couple of things that I personally think haven't helped. The summer signings on paper looked great, but injury prone, a couple of them have gone out on loan. Something hasn't worked, and I don't think really any of us can put our finger on it. I think the injuries is the biggest one for us. I think the midfield, we've got about 4 injuries in midfield at the moment. Kellerman, Anderson, Okaleki, and a couple of others that, last year, Bar Okaleki were part of that squad, part of that team that got us to 4th, not quite made it through the playoffs. So it's so hard to say. It really is.
Paul, what do you get from work? Because, we spoke about him last season. This is how I've said it, and I've said it on previous podcasts. How I see it at Woking is, and I think, Paul, you said the same, is, of course, last season, Woking certainly overachieved. Yes, they're an ambitious club that wanted to get into the Football League, but they overachieved with the competition behind them. Now that Notts County and Wrexham have gone, maybe a lot of fans of the National League and working fans thought this is a good opportunity now for us to compete for the title with Wrexham and Notts being gone, and it's clearly not gone that way. Paul, what do you think are working then? Because they certainly have overachieved this season so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one, is it? Because I think I said before, a team has to try and strengthen when it's in a position of strength. And Woking coming into that summer with a manager with a good pedigree, finishing fourth, you'd like to have thought that the recruitment would be strong to improve the squad that they already had, because he's not let many go, has he, Harry? So it's a case of supplementing what they've already got.
Yeah,
now,
definitely.
It appeared to me that he clearly hasn't maybe recruited as well as could be expected. And there's a number of reasons for that. I know Woking have had investment. They gone full time over the last few years. The infrastructure has improved, but you've still got to entice players to come, and that may have been difficult for Darren Sarll. But it's surprising. It's surprising that some of the signings he made haven't worked out. Robinson in particular in midfield, considering you've got four midfielders injured, and you've got the quality of Matt Robinson going out to Boreham Wood. Like you said, Harry, there's something not quite right there. And as much as Darren Sarll was a good manager, they clearly needed to change something within the club that may change the ethos, may change the culture, and improve it. I don't know.
No, I think the Matt Robinson thing was a massive head scratcher for us, especially when we had all these injuries. Why send someone out that the club made such a song and dance about signing? He's obviously a quality player. Why send him out on loan? Was there something behind the scenes that he didn't get on with him? Conflict of interest? Was he not happy with his game time? But, from a player point of view, if you're not getting in the team and all these injuries today, you've got to be knocking on his door saying, look, get me in, get me in, get me in. Prove a point of why you sign me. Something's gone wrong. The recruitment wasn't obviously showing it isn't the best at the moment. And I think I just don't know what was going through his head with some of it. But I don't know. It's hindsight's a wonderful thing now, looking at where we are in the season. And you look back and you see where players have gone to other clubs, think, oh, he'd be great or he'd be great. But we got to kind of just go from Saturday, try and get a result out of that, see who the new manager is, and just try and get some points on the board.
What would you say that expectation is now for what? Do you still, because I look at Halifax and I don't think it was kind of a similar position with us last season where we felt we were overachieving, and obviously our aims was the playoffs. And at the end of the season, we were only 4 points off. Somehow we turned it around in that second half of the season, the last quarter of the season, and we were only 4 points off the playoffs. So is that an ambition for you that you still think is possible, or at the moment is there more issues that you feel that you've got to be focusing on?
I think it's just getting to Christmas and try and get kind of mid-table and then get past Christmas and go again. I know it's that age old saying that you see a lot on Twitter, oh, go again, but you just get the Christmas run out and just get through that hard part of the season. I was looking at the table, I think we're only 8-9 points off the playoffs. So it only takes a good run of 5, 6, 7 games of wins on the bounce, and we could be right back up there. It's not the distance between us and the playoffs isn't as far as everybody thinks, but I think it looks further just with how bad we're playing, the quality of player we've got, and the fact that we're not scoring and we're not really where we were last year.
What I see with working, excuse me a second. What I see with working at the moment is it's games like the Halifax game, that the last minute equaliser, goal winner actually for myself. That's not something you would have done last season.
It happened twice on the bounce as well. 2 or 3 games in a row, 90 minutes plus. We got an equaliser, we lost in that.
Yeah,
that never happened last year. That was more of a Woking off before with Dowson and the managers before.
Who would you be looking at then for the new working manager? Because there's a few names, isn't there? There's Oxford's manager that don't know if that's a realistic target, but Ross Jenkins, I think you've clearly got a bigger budget, and there's certainly a project there. You can see what you're trying to do. You've also got Lee Bradbury, who was at Eastleigh earlier in the season. Paul Hurst might be a bit too ambitious. I don't really know. We're working at the moment. And then maybe Mark Cooper, but then you've got a question, would he leave Yeovil? Or is there anyone else in mind for yourself?
I mean, there's a few other people that haven't been mentioned. You've got the Cowleys, but
do you think that'd be possible though to bring them to London?
I think the budget's just too. You get two of them, so it's going to be expensive. Luke Garrard's the one that's been thrown about recently. He watching his post-match interview from Tuesday night, he looks broken. So is he looking for a change? They're not doing great this season, but he's got Boreham Wood into the playoffs twice, nearly got up. So he's obviously got that. But do we set our expectations again higher? You throw a bit of money at it, maybe try and get a Paul Hurst. It's got to be a smart appointment. This isn't going to be a quick fix this season. Yeah. And obviously, if we do get there, we do get the playoffs, that's great. Obviously, got to stay up as well, depending on who we've got. But this is not this season. This is also thinking about next season and the season before, the season after. Sorry, even if we do, get to the playoffs this year or next year, then go up to the Football League.
Someone's coming to Harry. Yeah, because obviously, Paul, you have quite strong opinions about Charlie Wakefield yourself. But yeah, Harry, what's your thoughts on him?
I think he gets a bit of unfair credit, if I'm honest. I think a lot of when we had him last year, he was injured. The two games when he played on Saturday and Tuesday, I thought he was quite good. I think there's that expectation of him just because of where he's come from, Yeovil, and he was quality. I don't know. I think Darren obviously brought him across because he knew what he was like. But him being injured and not being able to get into the squad this year because I don't know what Darren was doing with it. But I see the same as Greg Taylor. Greg Taylor was awful under Darren, but the last two games he's been quality. He made one mistake Tuesday night, but apart from that, I think he's been really good.
Someone's just come in. Someone called Joe just come in. Sorry to interrupt there, but he's put right. Watching them on Tuesday, it looked like they were silent disco, listening to different songs. There's quality there, just no organisation or team spirit, my opinion. What do you get from that?
There's no leadership, I don't think. I think you've got the ones that are, Casey, Cuthbert, players like that have, either been around the Football League or have been in the team a long time. I think this season there's not been the team spirit and the team bonding as there was last year. Things were all rosy last season, not this season. So it's trying to get those players to take that step up and take responsibility and get the players going, get them bonding, and hopefully whoever we do get in will bring this group together and hopefully we can push on. But there's so many answers to this. You just don't know what's going on. You only see 10% of what goes on 90 minutes on a Tuesday and a Saturday. You don't see the other 90% that's going on behind the scenes.
Now, I've got one more question to ask you, Harry, but before I do that, Paul, have you got anything just finally to say on working or maybe a question?
I think Harry's hit the nail on the head. They've got to hope whoever comes in, be it Luke Garrard or Darryl McMahon from Dagenham Redbridge, ex-Dagenham Redbridge could be another one. Someone with National League experience or EFL experience, it would definitely be. But they've got to galvanise this team, haven't they? And try and what Joe's suggesting is get them all on the same hymn sheet and listening to the same song rather than different ones. Because undoubtedly that he's kept a lot of the squad from last year that came fourth. He's tried to improve them with players that would supplement that quality. So that it is in there, and we've all seen Woking play, and we know what they can do when they're on top of their game. But any football team that's in a rut is in a rut, and it's hard to get out of. And you've got to look at the game on Saturday against Boreham Wood as a winnable game and one that should change because as a manager, does he come in and will he be on the sidelines or watching the stands, ready to take on Monday and push on? So they're a decent football club in a decent position financially, I should suggest, and an infrastructure for anyone to take on. And, whoever does take it is is going to be blessed with what they've got. They've just got.
Who would yours be then, Paul? What manager would it? If you were a working fan, who would you ideally think? Yeah,
who would I go for? Who's there out there? I think I would pick Luke Garrard. I think there's clearly not something right at Boreham Wood. He's done wonders with Boreham Wood in the last however many years he's been manager on probably a very respectable budget. I know they've got a tie with Arsenal and they've got a brilliant football pitch and setup, but I think it would just suit him. The only thing I would temper that is I know that Woking fans, I don't know whether Harry you would agree, but they weren't particularly enamoured with the way that Sale sometimes played in the style of football. Garrard
I agree, yeah.
Yeah, Luke Garrard's very similar. He's very pragmatic, isn't he? Defend, try and break. Maybe use those wingers in Lewis and Wakefield or whatever. I think he would be the fit at this moment in time that would work.
I think when I look at working, and for me, obviously, you've mentioned there about Luke Garrard and, the football that he's played at Bournemouth in the past. He's obviously a young coach who I think would have that in him to play quite attractive football. The Ross Jenkins one at Oxford interests me because I think if Woking came calling, I think he'd probably think, maybe this is an opportunity for me here, because how he's got to see it is he's at Oxford. He's got him out of the National League. He might think, look, I've done my job. I've got you up now. Maybe I'm going to actually kind of gamble here and leave Oxford and go to a side like Woking where you're going to be backed and, there's a project there and be given time. Just one final question for you, Harry, then. Not so much about Woking as of such. Who are the two sides for you that are going to get promoted this season?
Well, I think we all know it's going to be Chesterfield's number one. Second one, it's so open. I'm going to say Barnet.
Barnet, you still think they're going to? You still think that they'll pull it together?
Yeah, I think they've got enough quality there. They did it last season. They're doing it again this season. They're settled with Brennan, so I just, it's so open. I'm just throwing a name out there that I think are going to do it, but it's anyone's game. It's so difficult to call this league, especially the last couple of seasons. It's getting more difficult, so it just could be anyone. It could be someone down in 10th or 11th, or it could be second place. You just don't know. So I'm sticking with Barnet, but it's anyone's game. It's so open.
For me, the one that I tell you who else I'd like at work, and just going back to that, I know a few people are coming in, and we mentioned Paul Hurst, and I don't know if that's realistic, but he's a manager who's been here, he's done it with Grimsby, and I think at work, that'll be a good fit. I didn't actually ask you who would be the manager, and let's say you could have the Cowley brothers, you could have Paul Hurst. If that was just irrelevant, and you could have a manager who you wanted, who would you have?
I'd probably say Paul Hurst. I think the track record and kind of his background suits us more. The Cowley brothers, I think they kind of lived on their legacy of the whole Lincoln going up and the FA Cup run. They've been to some Football League clubs and haven't done that well. Now, is that them or is it a combination of both? But I think Paul Hurst is the more sensible option from experience and background to kind of take that next step.
Well, Howie, thank you very much for coming on. I'm sure we'll
me.
get you back on it at some point as well to talk about work, and hopefully it'll be a lot more positive when we next have you on. Yeah. But thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
See ya. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
So it was great to speak to Harry just then, about working, because of course it's a club at the moment and they're in a bit of crisis themselves. Maybe not a club we've spoke too much about at the moment, apart from Darryl Sall leaving, and we've kind of struggled, haven't we, to come up with a replacement. So it's been good to get a bit of information from a working supporter there. We're going to have a quick look at what people are saying in the live chat. Get back to our point. Callum is in tonight evening. We've also got Chris is in. We've got Stingem, who's a Maidstone fan, is still with us. David is with us tonight. And then we've also got all over X. Looks like he's done it to all his clubs. Yeah, that's back to the Fondot point. And then we've had Dave. He's coming tonight. Dave predicted the 2-1 win. Want Dave. That was Geordie. So I'm guessing that's a Gateshead fan there. We'll come back to the live chat then, but probably a good point to speak about now. Oh, we've got Ash who's in, and it might be a good point to come on to. Even like Mikey Mellon has told Joe Nuttall at Oldham to find a new club. Do you think any club would actually take a player like him? I would take him at Halifax. Let's put it this way, but I don't think we'll sign him. But just going back to the point then. Let's talk a bit more about that Barnet v Oldham match before we go on to another topic. What I get from that game, and this is just from someone who watched it like myself, this is how I saw it. Barnet set up very attacking at home, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what they do is they open gaps, they leave gaps at the back. And when you're leaving someone like Okimo, I think it is, at the back, 5 years of age, if everyone's going up for the corner and you're leaving one player back, you don't leave a 35-year-old back because he's just going to get torn apart. And the thing is with Oldham is that 4-1, I wouldn't say flattered them, but I don't think they absolutely battered them off the pitch, Barnet. They just were clever. They were very well set up, very well organised, which is something we've struggled to see from Oldham. And I think what Mellon's doing well there is he's making them hard to beat and well organised. And then we basically just saw them, as soon as they got the ball, they'd hoof it forward, which, yes, is a bit of an industrial style of play, but hoofed it forward up to Norwood and Fondop, and they'd just lay it off, and then they'd gain opportunities from that. And it just played right into Oldham's hands how Barnet played. What do you get from it then? Because, of course, you didn't watch the game, but what did you get overall?
Well, it clearly, the result went in the manner that some may have expected, because Barnet on a bad run of form and Oldham were slowly improving under Mickey Mellon. We all had a lot to say about Oldham in the beginning of the season under David Unsworth, and the amount of players they had and who they recruited and what team he was picking, and the fact they were losing to the likes of Wealdstone or Maidenhead, teams they expect to beat. But no one's really spoken about their sort of slow improvement. They haven't just gone from 0 to 60. They are going through the gears, and I think Mickey Mellon has that ability to do it. He's done it at EFL level. He's got teams promoted through playoffs and automatic promotions. So, I'm not surprised they're doing better. They've sort of doing it on the quiet. I was surprised to see that they beat Barnet 4-1. I think any team that gets beat 4-1 in the National League is clearly being given a bit of a beating, because it doesn't often happen. The worrying thing for Barnet is, like we said, it's 3 losses on the spin, 10 goals conceded. They're not scoring a massive amount. I mean, it could have been worse last night. I understand Laurie Walker was lucky not to be sent off. I think the referee brandished a red card and changed it to a yellow card. So, listen, they could have been down to 10 men, and who knows what the score may have been. On the same token, Dean Brennan said in his post-match interview that they may have had a penalty themselves and could have scored. So I didn't see it myself, so I don't know. So, there's more than one way to skin a cat, Luke. And if Oldham have exploited the open spaces that Barnet left by playing the ball long and quick, let them do it. And I would take that as a Wealdstone fan. You take as any team would take a 4-1 away win against a team that is second in the league midweek, any day of the week, and it doesn't matter how it comes.
I think how I see it is Oldham have found the formula how to beat. I think teams have actually found a formula on how to beat Barnet. Look, all season, no matter even when Barnet were doing well, you were guaranteed chances against Barnet. And if a side's well organised defensively and make it hard for Barnet to score, that's when you can literally catch them on the break. And that's what we saw Oldham do. They just caught them on the break. And when you've got someone like Norwood, it was a dream for him the other night, because the amount of chances he got, he's going to take them. And that's something he's probably struggled, and Oldham have struggled with, is finding him this season. And, because they haven't had the players in there and to find him. And they've found a formula in that game where they've literally just toothed it forward, and it's fallen to him and Fondop on. And Fondop's another player, he's not, I would say, one of the most gifted players at this level. He's not one of the best strikers, but he's a striker that, he's an intelligent striker who Oldham played to his advantage. And to be fair, from what I saw, I think Oldham just did a job on Barnet. They were just very well organised, and they took the chances, which was only about the 4 chances that they got. They just took the chances, and that's an example of how to beat Barnet. And I think that's what sides are going to start doing now, making it difficult by defending well and having numbers back, and then just catching them on the break. I know Callum came in here with a good point, and he said, if I can get it, and this is another point that I'd like to make, if you score against Barnet, you can just get at the gaps when they come forward. Exactly. So if you go 1-0 up against Barnet, Barnet are going to throw loads of men forward, and that's where you exploit them even more. And that's why we saw against Chesterfield they got battered, and that's why we saw last night that they got battered. It wasn't particularly in either of those games that throughout the game they were getting run all over the pitch. It's just when they went 1-0 down, they struggled because they throw too many men forward without being cautious defensively. So for me, yeah, people are raving about Oldham at the moment. I wouldn't get ahead of myself with Oldham. I still, from what I saw last night, I didn't think they were the complete package. They did a job. They were well organised. They took the chances, but I still think they're missing something. For example, in the midfield, Gardner's a very good player, but he's old. And the other midfielders, Lundstrom, yes, is a good midfielder, but I still think there's something missing at Oldham from what I saw last night. I think they just did a job on Barnet, but for a game coming up like against Ebbsfleet, when you're playing at home and you're expected to keep a lot of the ball, that's when I think Oldham are going to struggle. And that's what we've seen, haven't we, against a lot of sides down there this season.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think all Oldham have got to try and do is chip away, and get further up that table towards the playoff picture and sort of consolidate up that end. And then Mickey Mellon will get his January transfer window, no doubt, if he is likely to get rid of the likes of Nuttall as an example and bring in his own players, because clearly he's playing with or using a squad of players that he hasn't recruited. And any manager would like to have his own team. There's some go-to players that these managers always rely on, or a type of player. And, come January, he'll have the option of going and getting those players, because Oldham have got the structure and they've probably got the wage bill to be able to entice players to the club. Yeah. It's going to be even better if they can entice players to the club with the opportunity of being in the playoffs and possibly getting automatically promoted. Maybe a little bit far off at this stage, but they've got, if they slowly keep improving, again, as you say, they've got Ebbsfleet on Saturday, which to them should be a winnable game at home. All of a sudden, they're on that run of form. So I think, all you can ask of any National League team at the moment, Luke, at this, October, November, going into Christmas, is do a job on teams, get some points on the board, get a bit of form, try and keep your players fit, free from suspension, and then you push on there through the very, very busy Christmas period before you got that transfer window to reshape your squad if you need to.
I think Mickey Mellon's doing well with the squad that he's got available at the moment. And, we've mentioned there, haven't we, about strengthening in January, and that's when maybe Oldham, will start to go on a bit of a run of form like they did last year after January. As we saw, they had a good second half to the season, and I could see that happening again because, they look a lot more organised at the moment, and I think in January when they strengthen, they're going to look even better. Another topic and quite a good one was, is Norwood the best striker in this division? Now, is that something that you agree with, or would there be another name for you?
Listen, there's a lot of good strikers. Norwood. The thing with Norwood is he's got undoubted quality and experience at a much higher level than he has National League. I think this is the first time he's played at National League level. So if he can play in a team that's going to give him the ball like they did last night, he'll take his chances. I think earlier in the season, he clearly wasn't getting those chances. I mean, I saw him down at the Vale and he was really quite non-existent, and you think from a player of his quality and standing, you'd imagine him to boss games a little bit more, maybe be the focal point. It really wasn't happening, but it clearly happened last night because Dean Brennan, again, in his post-match interview, sort of stated that having someone like him up top, when the chances fall to him, he's going to take them. And any striker, it doesn't matter who you are, you could be, Ronaldo and Messi down to James Norwood. If you get chances, you start taking them, all of a sudden you get better and better, and you get in that run of form, and you feel like the goal all of a sudden looks massive. It doesn't look like a postage stamp. You're going to score a lot more chances, and your confidence goes up with that. And I think that's really what's happening. Is Norwood is probably a microcosm of what Oldham are doing. He's getting better because Oldham are getting better.
And also, of course, he was there with Mike. He was there with Mikey Mellon as well, wasn't he? When he was with Tranmere a few years ago now. That was probably the season I was starting to properly get into football with Halifax. So, yeah, I do remember him scoring a lot of goals for Tranmere. For me, when I look at him, he's got the highest percentage of shots that are on target, which is a good stat, considering that I don't think he's been getting much service at Oldham so far this season, and I think he's going to start getting more under Mikey Mellon, and when more players come in and players are coming back from injury. That's something we've got to remember as well. So for me, I genuinely think he is. He's a very, very intelligent player, a very intelligent striker. We saw last night there were a time where the ball went over and he held it up, but instead of just holding it up, he tried doing a quarter of turn, and then he knew that he was never going to get past the defender, turned and then just went straight into him, won the free kick. And that is, that's been a very intelligent striker at this level. So for me, I'd probably say, I would say if there was any striker I could have in this division now at Halifax, I would bring Norwood to Halifax. Of course, that's never going to happen, but I'd love to see that happen. Someone's mentioned there's no transfer window. Yeah, but we tend to see in January, that's when transfers seem to be happening. Obviously, I'm not using the correct words there, but in January, we start to see transfers being made more often at this level because, of course, it's easier to get players from the EFL as well. Another topic then, and this is one that someone put forward, and I saw it in the comments after the Tuesday games, and it should be right at the top if I can remember. It says, why are the promoted teams struggling so far? Paul, what do you think's behind it? Because I've got a point that I'd like to make, but what would you say? Why would you say the promoted sides are struggling?
I would suggest, and I could be wrong, but Oxford aren't full time. I don't know whether Fylde are, Kiddie are, but adapting to that new league, adapting to the little things like the travel. At the end of the day, Luke, you've got to attract a better player than you had in North or South. Okay, your budget's not going to go up considerably unless you can get investment. The investment's going to come with a bit of success. So those clubs have got to show that they're going to be them. They're going to sort of stabilise and establish themselves in the National League to maybe get sponsorship and investment to be able to improve the wage bill. So you're going in and you're trying to recruit individuals that want an opportunity at National League level, but maybe aren't established at National League level because that comes at a cost. We've seen the players that get signed by teams. You look at the levels, right? So someone like Oxford City, Fylde, Kidderminster, and Ebbsfleet. Yeah. Although some have been in the National League, they've never really established themselves for too long now. So you've got to go and attract a player and say, look, come and play for us. You want a National League experience? Come and play for us. We can only give you X amount of pounds a week. They may be out of the Northern Prem, the Isthmian League Premier, the National League North South. It's a massive step up, Luke. A huge step up. We've seen so many players who haven't bridged that gap. You look at Dominic Polian for Ebbsfleet. I know he didn't sign for him, but he was brilliant in the National League South. What's he done in the National League as an example? And there's lots of players like, and we've got to try. They've got to try and find players that to come and play regularly in the National League. So it's really difficult. The likes of Maidenhead, Woking, Sutton, who got promoted, Boreham Wood, they've had to chip away, improving squads time over time. It's hard to do it overnight.
For me, when I look at the 4 promoted sides, and I've always had the opinion that when they came up, I thought Ebbsfleet, Kidderminster and Fylde would probably establish themselves. Then Kidderminster didn't invest very well in the summer, and I didn't think the squad was good enough to survive, and that's showing so far. I thought they wouldn't score enough goals, and clearly that's the main issue there. at the moment. So I personally feel Kidderminster, they're going to go down, unfortunately. I just can't see how they're going to find the players at this stage of the season now that are going to start firing away goals for them. You know, they've only scored 13 goals all season, and we're 20-odd games in. How can you only score that many when we're 20-odd games in and expect to survive in this division, no matter how good you are defensively? You know, you see players like Asante leaving and not going to, and Kidderminster not wanting to sign him. You just think you've missed an opportunity there. It's like Nuttall's available now. If I were Kidderminster, I'd be biting Oldham's hand off for him because they just need a striker of some sort that's going to start scoring goals. Ebbsfleet, they're on a bad run of form at the moment. Same, Fylde, very inconsistent. I thought they were pretty good at Halifax. Of course, one week they're going to Gateshead and battering Oldham. Then next week they're losing to sides that are down there like York. When I'm starting to think about it, and I was trying to think today of what is the reason, because there's clearly a reason behind it. When you think of the leagues below, the majority of them part-time, aren't they? 3/4 of the division are part-time. You're coming up into this division to a full-time division, and it's something that's changed over the last couple of seasons. A few seasons ago, sides that got promoted would usually adjust to this division because it was half part-time, half full-time, where now sides are starting to struggle because they don't have what it takes, even if you are a full-time side, to be playing against other full-time teams. You know, we look at Gateshead last season. They got promoted. They struggled, didn't they, at the start of the season quite badly. Same with Dorking. They had a few good results, but as the season went on to this stage, they were struggling themselves. And then they kind of found that formula that we're going to keep them up in this division. And things kind of fell into place. Now, that's something that I think could happen with Fylde, because I think there's a very good team in there. And it's something that I could see happening with Ebbsfleet, because I still think there's a good team there. You know, you don't go from that FA Cup side that beat Halifax and storming the league below. I know I've just kind of disrespected the division, the league below there, and gone back on myself on what I've just said. But you don't go from that to them being in this division and being a very poor side, losing to Oxford at home. There's clearly something going wrong there. For me, Fylde will stay up, and then I think Ebbsfleet, there's a chance they could. Maybe it's me being a bit naive on Oxford, but I can't see them surviving, unfortunately. I know a few people have come in with their points, so we'll have a look and see what they're saying on that. Someone said Ebbsfleet looked a very poor outfit on Tuesday night, shot of confidence and no fan support. Joe came up with, I need to read this out because it was a good point that Joe came up with. On the 4 promoted teams being in the relegation zone, Oxford in 21st are closer to Altrincham in 7th than Solihull Moors in 4th to Chesterfield. Pretty good point there. I love how Joe comes in with all the statistics. It's always good to have someone like that who tunes in. Stingem, who is a Maidstone fan, so he'll know a lot about being down there. The way you approach a game is very different as well. Ebbsfleet have relied on the National League South approach too much and are struggling to adapt to a move to a non-league format. Paul, do you think what's happening with sides is maybe another thing is they're trusting the squad that got them promoted too much and respecting that squad too much, where they should really be investing in the squad to survive in this division more?
Oh, without a doubt, you know, and that's the point I was trying to make in terms of step up from north and south. They're decent enough leagues. Don't get me wrong, but it's probably one of the biggest step ups. They talk about the Championship into the Premier League, the National League North and South going into the National League is a huge step up, Luke. And this, like I said, you know, Ebbsfleet have got to try and find a bit more money to supplement what they've got. Have they got that money? Oxford have got to do the same. I think Fylde traditionally have had a little bit of money, but you've then got to try, like I said, you've got to try and attract a player to come to the National League who no player wants to be in a relegation battle. No player wants to play in the team that are in the bottom 4. So a lot of the times these teams are giving opportunities to lads that may not normally get the opportunity. You know, be it come out of the EFL Academy side, be it a National League team squad player that hasn't quite made it and been in and around some teams, be it the best player in the National League South or National League North in terms of their whatever position they're in, they're the best player. you know, my team hasn't got promoted. I'll go and try and play for a National League team, and you end up, and you know you're probably guaranteed minutes at that level rather than playing for the likes of Oldham or Chesterfield. So it's really, really difficult because not only that, Lou, when you got to imagine, not only are they stepping up into National League on the pitch, they got to step it up off the pitch as well in terms of what the club offer. You know, I know for a fact Oxford City have had to spend a lot of money just improving their ground to be able to compete at National League level in that sense. You know, and that's a difficult thing to do. There's all these things that are associated with being a National League team that you don't have to do at National League North and South, and that all comes at a cost. And, you know, Ebbsfleet don't have the biggest crowd. All of a sudden, you know, they've got to find more money. They're not going to find more crowds, are they? You know, they're getting the same number of people that come before. That takes time. There's a whole number of factors that don't help the promoted sides, and what promoted sides need to do. And I've seen it with Wealdstone over the last 4 years. So, you know, I can see, I've seen it firsthand, is you just got to establish yourself in the league, finish 5th from bottom. So in that summer, you can go and get a slightly better player. You can go and get slightly more investment. You can build a slightly bigger stand or improve the changing room. So on and off the field, you get these little increments of improvement. So then all of a sudden, 4 or 5 seasons in, you're more established. Your squad should be stronger. You've got more EFL opportunities for loans because actually clubs want to loan you because you're in the National League. So there's a whole number of factors that put this together. But I think the biggest one overall, if you package that up, is it's a massive step, and clubs struggle with it. Someone's
actually come in, which is good for that point on Wealdstone, and I've kind of bypassed the message and now I'm meaning to come back to it, so I do apologise. I'm trying to scroll up in the chat. And he said, opinions on the new stadium being approved, Paul. Now, I know it's something we spoke about, but we've got quite a lot more people tuning in tonight than what we had on Monday night, so it's probably a good opportunity for you to give your thoughts on that.
It's a week or 10 days ago that the London Borough of Hillingdon, where Wealdstone play their home games in a town called Ruislip, has approved a new stadium for the football club. I think it's something like 3 miles from where we're based at the moment, and it's if it comes off, we've got to just temper our enthusiasm a little bit. There's still a little bit of way to go in terms of getting a bit of investment and getting it all signed off. But the board are very encouraged by the fact that London Borough of Hillingdon have found this piece of land. They want the football club to stay in the London Borough of Hillingdon. You know, we're the biggest football club in that borough. And to be honest with you, Reece, it'll be a game changer because there's probably investment waiting, but the ground that they play on at the moment, the Vale, just to give everyone sort of a heads up of how it works, is it's rented off another owner, and they're quite happy for Wealdstone Football Club to be there, but they don't give them a long enough rental period for Wealdstone to be able to go to investors and say, look, this is what we want to do. So the long-term goal was to find their own ground, and this is what they've done. It's the biggest piece of news for the football club in a number of years. You know, they were nomadic from the 90s when they lost their previous ground. So, you know, this could be a game changer for them. All we've got to do in the next 2 or 3 years is stay in that National League, keep improving, because the ground comes, the investment comes, and then hopefully full-time status comes, and actually we push on. So it's great for us. I think it's great for the National League if we can stay in there, and it'll be great for the London Borough of Hillingdon.
Just it shows more ambition as well. You'll be able to fit more people inside the stadium. So at the moment, you know, if you've got a good FA Cup tie, maybe you can't get the best out of that because you can't. Obviously, I'm not trying to disrespect Wealdstone. Get the best out of it because you can't have that many. You can't really have that much of a big away following, and you can't. You know, all the day trippers can't all fit in the stadium, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, the way we play at the Vale, the best way to describe it is a football ground, not a football stadium.
Yeah.
It's been improved as much as it can be improved from a traditional non-league ground to a National League stadium. But it's still a football ground. It's got great character, and people do love to come, but it's got its limitations, and everyone's aware of that. You know, it's brilliant, but it's key. It's what's keeping the club back at the moment. At the same time, so the new story of getting a new ground is unbelievable for us. We've just got to stay level-headed. Let's get it all approved and get it built, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Someone's coming, and I agree with this point definitely, Luke. I bet you hope that Bourne would go up so you don't lose any fans. They're the second side that only get promoted through the playoffs if Halifax don't go up, because, yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a Bournemouth fan tune into this. Every other club in the league, we've seen a fan tune in. I'm sure of it, and they're the only club that we haven't seen anyone tune in. Maybe we will one day. Someone else is going to said playoffs will be interesting this year. It certainly will. Jack, someone said, hi, Gates. Said, welcome to the stream, Jack. You seem like you're new, so welcome to the community. Also, we've got a lot of people tuning in tonight. We nearly had 70 people. We've got 62 people watching us at the moment. So if you are new to the podcast, please remember to subscribe, because we do this on a weekly basis. We also do other content as well, vlogs, interviews in the past. We do a lot on this channel on the National League. It's the only place on YouTube where there's a stream where you can watch it, and we have a bit of a discussion, myself and Paul, and also get the live chat involved as well. Anyway, we're 50 minutes in. We haven't even started with the predictions. This always happens when we have a lot of people watching. So thank you to everyone that's tuned in. But we do need to get on with the predictions now. These are the scores on the doors.
Oh, God.
Very up. You had the worst week ever. Or last week with 2 points, and you've done it again with 2 points. Like, a few results saved me. The Ebbsfleet versus Maidenhead one, and you were very fortunate last night with Oldham v Barnet, because I predicted it to be 2-1, and I felt like it. And same with Eastleigh v Bournemouth, I said 2-0, and Oxford York, I said 2-1. So I ain't had the best week myself, but it was like a goal away from it being extended. I know Solihull Gate said you got correct, so fair play on that one. But 2 results correct, Paul. That is not the best, is it?
No, it's not very good, is it?
Hoping to improve it this week. Do you see this as an opportunity?
Luke, listen, I've got to. It's the gap's getting bigger. 10-point gap. That's not on. It was down to like 2 or 3 at some point. So. Yeah, I've got to have a good week at some point. I don't know when it's coming, Luke, because I have no idea. I'm not very good at this, but we'll see. Let's hope this Saturday's a turning point for me.
This was it before Tuesday's games, so there were 5 points in it, and you had a poor week then. 2 points, 2 game weeks on the spin. Anyway, let's get on with the predictions then. Chesterfield remain top. I do not think I will be coming into a game week saying they're not top this season from now on. That's what I'm going to say at the moment. I wouldn't say it's bold either, because I don't think anyone's catching them. I've got it wrong. It was game week 22, not game week 23. I'll have to change that. Fylde versus Dorking then. Yeah. 2 footballing sides, 2 sides that score a fair amount of goals between them, but 2 sides that are very poor defensively. We look at Fylde recently. They've got a good point against Halifax away from home. I thought they looked good. Eustabasi on the wing. Kay also looked good, very, very fast. Horton didn't even come on until the second half, and he made a difference as well. So I don't think there's a bad side in there if they can just tighten up defensively. Played some nice football, and Dorking are very similar in that, quite inconsistent, not very good defensively, but very good going forward. But 2 sides that are very open as well. If they're 2-0 down, it's not that we don't want to get battered here, it's that we're going to get back in this game. How do you see it going, Paul?
Yeah, I agree with you, Luke. I think Dorking, if Fylde are going to play at home to someone at the moment, and where they're trying to gain a little bit of confidence and build on that, on some good performances, Dorking's certainly a kind of fixture for them. You know what, with Dorking, it's a really hard one to sort of pick with them. You don't know what sort of team they're going to sort of come out and beat. I've gone with a Fylde 2-1 win. I see it's quite high scoring with some of the predictions. I think Fylde will win. They're at home. Like you said, they're good going forward defensively. If they could just be a little bit better, and I think Dorking are susceptible as well, like you said, at the back. So I think Fylde will win. I always try and err on the side of the home team when I'm not sure, but I think Fylde will take this one.
got 68 people watching at the moment. It'd be good to get to 70. That was the first time this season. We did last season, but the first time this season we've got to 70 people watching the show live. Matthew's coming and said, who do you reckon will get playoffs? And do you think Eastleigh have a chance to break in the top 7? Now, we're going to be doing our updated predictions very shortly, so I don't want to speak too much on that as one of the predictions, but Eastleigh, are going strong at the moment themselves. McCallum's scored a lot of goals. He's actually the top goal scorer as well at the moment. And if they can gain a bit of momentum at the moment, who knows? For me, I'd probably say no overall. I think the 7 teams better than Eastleigh. Is that something you'd agree with, Paul?
On what I've seen of them, yeah. I mean, they are sort of improved under Richard Hill, aren't they? I'm not sure they're going to get too much out of Saturday, so I think they're going to have to start after that. But yeah, Harry, the Woking fan, made a really good point. It's really open. So for me or you, Luke, I guess to turn around and say, I don't think Eastleigh will get in the playoffs, or I think they definitely will, would be a bit of a miss from us at this present time, because teams can beat each other, and it really is open on behind Chesterfield. So I don't think it's unsurmountable for any team like Eastleigh to get into the playoffs, but at the same time, they could very much likely be dropped out of it. So consistency is the key now with all these teams, because they're all very much of a muchness. They're all very similar. It's those that are going to be more consistent over the next few months are the ones that will reap the benefits of it.
I'm going to be honest. I don't think Halifax will get in I don't think we're good enough either to get in. If I'm being honest, I think we're doing very well. I think we're overachieving, but I think there's 7 teams better than us. But honestly, when I'm starting to think about it, I just think the league's a bit weaker than last season overall, and maybe I'm thinking that teams overall are just better this season around the playoffs than what they actually are. Especially when you look at sides like Woking that are underperforming so far. They were side with the money that they spent, that maybe you thought they'd be up there. Boreham Wood, usually up there from last season, are struggling themselves. We kind of see, don't we? I'm not saying Barnet haven't improved, but last season they finished 5th, now the 2nd. And Chesterfield are running away with it. I think it's anyone's game in the playoffs, to be honest. And it could go down to 11th or 12th at the moment. And there could be some sides even lower that gain a bit of momentum and go on a good run, and maybe they could sneak into the playoffs as well. Southend being one of those sides, a side we've spoke about at the moment. I've got 2 sides in mind that I think will go up at the moment, and I don't think it's Barnet, but maybe that'd change. Maybe it's because of the bad run they're on that's kind of putting me off them. But anyway, we've kind of sidetracked. So I forgot to give my prediction for this game. Now I've gone for a 3-1 Fylde win. I think being at home, they looked good against Halifax. So I think they'll manage to get another win. Keep your predictions coming in, guys. A lot of people getting involved. Please don't be shy as well if you're new to get your predictions in, and we'll put them on the screen. As we do that. Next game then, Aldershot versus Halifax. A big game this, 7th versus 8th. Yeah, how do you see it going, Paul?
Well, Luke, you'll be pleased to know that I've predicted that Aldershot are going to beat Halifax.
We needed that. I thought for once on Tuesday you might actually get this right, because I'm going to mess you at half time. You change your prediction, and then I didn't. And then we went 2-1 up, and I thought we're cruising here. And then anyway, just the curse, innit? Cursed us.
Aldershot are they're one of the form teams, aren't they? That's clear to see. To come back and beat Bromley the other week and to sort of get the results they get in, and they are playing with an awful lot of confidence. They're the polar opposite to the Boreham Woods and Wokings of this league at the present time. So they're at home. Halifax is just, they're there or thereabouts, but I don't know if you agree with me, Luke, but they're just still showing that little bit of inconsistency, aren't they? So I do think Aldershot will win, and they'll continue their good form. Halifax have got to put on a good show to sort of try and beat them. And I think Aldershot are going to be too strong for them.
Don't apologise, guys. This is what I love seeing this, because we always seem to do well when everyone's going against us. Paul, for example. So cheers, Paul, for that. Fingers crossed I've not jinxed us now with that, but I'm going to go for an opposite. I'm feeling quite confident because of how Aldershot play, and I think if I probably wasn't a Halifax fan, I'd probably say Aldershot are going to win because they're very good at home. They've only lost once at home all season, and that was to Chesterfield. But I think they're suited to our play. You know, we play a very defensive way where we're hard to break down, very well organised, and we're very good away from home at doing that. If we can keep Josh Stokes quiet, I can't see why we can't catch them out on the break. You know, we'll allow them to have the ball, and then we'll just catch them out, and that's how I think it'll happen. Another stat is that Aldershot have actually only had one clean sheet at home all season, so we're clearly going to get chances, aren't we? And if we can take we're good enough defensively to keep anyone out on a day in this division. So if we take our chances and can keep Aldershot out, I can't see why we can't win this game. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 Halifax win. Maybe that's the bias they're kicking in there. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But honestly, I go into this being more confident that we'd get a result than we would at home to a Wealdstone or a Fylde, because I just think it's more suited to us, where it's more of a defensive performance and then catching them out on the break. Everyone seems to be backing. We've had one or two. David's come in. I like David. He's coming with the 2-0 Halifax. George has come in. He's a working fan. So we're both against Aldershot this weekend. They're the only two that I can see who have backed us. Someone said 1-1. That could be a good prediction. I think that's quite a good shout there. Someone said 3-2 Halifax. I think Halifax will win, George, but I can't see us winning by scoring 3 goals, to be honest, especially away from home. Next game then that we are on, Altrincham versus Solihull. 2 sides that have had back-to-back defeats, but 2 sides that are up there in the playoffs. How do you see it going, Paul?
I couldn't divide them. You know, there's a lot of games this week in terms of sort of similar league positions, isn't there? So a tough one to sort of call as well. Like you said, then both sort of picked up results they didn't want to pick up over the last couple of weeks. So I've gone with a 2-2 draw. I just felt like I couldn't divide them. You know, again, Altrincham being at home might suit them. They both play decent enough brand of football, can both score goals. I couldn't divide them, so I've gone with a 2-2 draw.
I'm agreeing with the majority of the chat and going 1-1 for this game. Altrincham have had 1 defeat at home all season, and Solihull have only had 1 defeat away. You know, both sides will be wanting to bounce back because they've had 2 poor defeats. Altrincham, you know, got torn apart in midweek against Rochdale, and Solihull had a disappointing result against a fellow playoff candidate in Gateshead. So both sides can't afford to lose, but won't be wanting to lose this game and lose 3 games on the bounce, because you're not in a good position there. So for me, I'm going to go for a 1-1. Everyone's going with it in the chat, and I'm going to agree with that. I think it'll be low scoring, very defensive performance. There's a lot of talk about what sides are going to drop off this season. I think one of these will. One of these sides will drop off, and one of them will finish in the playoffs this season. I can't see them both finishing in the playoffs. But yeah, everyone's going for 1-1. That's what the majority of the chat are saying. I've only seen 2 people back Alty so far. So yeah, it's an interesting one, that. I think it'll be low scoring, so I'm going for 1-1. This game, then, what a game! This is every game week. There's a game, isn't there? That's a bit naff, isn't there? And I think this is the naff game. Although maybe there's a lot riding on it with both sides out of form at the moment. Both sides don't score at many. Woking are managerless. Woking have had 1 win in 8. Bournemouth have had 1 win in 7. For me, I think it'll be very low scoring, and I'm actually going to go for a 0-0 draw. How do you see it going, Paul?
I've got both teams scoring. I've gone for a 1-1 draw. Could be very interesting. Could be Luke Garrard's last game as a Bournemouth manager if he gets promoted. If he gets poached by Woking. You know, who's going to be the new Woking manager? They're going to, you know, the players are going to want to sort of prove their worth a little bit. Both teams are desperately in search of 3 points, aren't they? And I can't imagine this is going to be the best looking match in the world. And I don't think it really matters to those 2 teams. They just need the 3 points. I mean, George has said 2-1 with a praying hands emoji. I think he just desperate for a win, like most Woking fans are, as well as, say, Boreham Wood fans. But I like you, 0-0. I've given them the benefit of doubt. At least I've said that they'll score, but I've gone 1-1.
I've never seen so many people predict 0-0 in it. I thought when I predicted for a 0-0, I thought it rarely ever happens, and a lot of people would be disagreeing with me, but the majority of people are saying 0-0 for this game. So yeah, it's not going to be. It might be, but I don't think it's going to be a firecracker this game, to be honest. Chesterfield versus Eastleigh. Then look, it's a simple answer: 2-0 to Chesterfield. I don't think there'd be any week when Chesterfield are at home at the moment where I wouldn't back them. I think anyone who wouldn't not back them, I think you'd have to have a good point why you wouldn't, because there's nothing for me that shows that they're not going to win at home. So I don't think they'll batter Eastleigh. Eastleigh have clearly improved in recent weeks. I think are becoming more organised themselves and have got a good striker in McCallum, who Chesterfield will be well aware of. But I think I'm going for a 2-0 Chesterfield win. How do you see it going, Paul?
I've gone 4-1. I've got to be bolder sometimes in my predictions, like you were the other day when it was 4-2 to Chesterfield. So I'm sort of following that lead a little bit and thinking, will Chesterfield score a few? They're at home against a defensively decent team in Eastleigh, but I just think they're going to be too powerful. And I've gone for a 4-1 win. So let's see, Lou. Let's see.
Yeah, they are unbeaten in 3, to be fair, Eastleigh at the moment. And they have won the last 2 games. Of course, one of those was against OLDHAM, who I think they were the first side to defeat them in the league in a very long time. But yeah, most people, I think everyone's backed Chesterfield. Matthew, come on, give us your prediction. I want to hear that. I want to hear that Eastleigh positivity. But yeah, I just can't see past Chesterfield. I think when you look at them at the top of the league at the moment, it would be one of the biggest bottle jobs in the league if they were not to win the league in this position now, because everything's in their favour. They've got an 8-point gap with a game in hand. Is it 8 points, or is it 8 points if they win their game in hand?
No, I think it is 8 points.
Yeah, it is 8 points, and they also have a game in hand on Barnet. So that could be extended to 11. They're only going to get stronger, and other sides are going to get weaker because they have a bigger squad than everyone else. And they can also add to that with the budget that they've got in their hand if worse did come to the worst and problems were happening there. You know, they're a side that it's a bit of a mismatch, them being in this division this season. Unfortunately, they shouldn't be in this league. They're a lot better than everyone else. There's a bigger gap between Chesterfield and Barnet, in my opinion, than these Barnet probably to lower mid-table at the moment. I think they're just a lot better than everyone else. Matthews actually said, not confident for this one, but the start of a tough run. Chesterfield, then Aldershot. Can you read that out? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, not confident this one, but the start of a tough run. Chesterfield, then Reading, then Aldershot twice. I think even having some resistance against Chesterfield will be great for us.
And then he said 3-1 to Chesterfield. We'll go on to the next game then. Dagenham versus Rochdale. Rochdale on very good form at the moment. They've just put 3 past Altrincham. Dagenham, of course, didn't actually have a game in midweek and defeated Kidderminster at the weekend away from home as well. I'm going to back Rochdale in this game. They've scored 15 goals in the last 6 games. I think in those 6 games, they've scored 2+ goals as well as in every single one. Yeah, and also you think of the sides that Rochdale have played. Aldershot defeated them. Alty defeated them. Got a point against Gateshead. They're clearly on form at the moment. So for me, I'm going for a 2-0 Rochdale win. How do you see it going, Paul?
Yeah, I've gone for a Rochdale win. Gone with the away team, which I don't often do. Dagenham 2, Rochdale 3. I think they're both capable of scoring goals. And Rochdale have proved that in the last few weeks. So again, they're a team that are just getting along with it, just moving along and doing their bits and pieces. maybe need to show a bit more consistency. But they're finding their feet in this league. They're showing they're showing the respect to the league by just plodding along and doing their job. And I think they'll win on Saturday against Dagenham, and they'll win 3-2.
Right, I'll just try to get the predictions back up. We'll have a look at what people have been saying while that takes its time to load. People are going, not one person's back Dagenham as of yet, but they've gone for a 2-2 draw there. 2-1, we've said. Starting to slow up now. My computer. Paul has said 2-1. I think we're back, actually. And then Stuart has said 3-1 to Rochdale. Right, then, let's get back to the predictions. Next game, then, that we are on. We are on to Gateshead versus Southend. I personally think this is game of the game week. Southend are clearly on very good form at the moment, and they have been throughout the season. They're in a false position, literally, at the moment. Not the best away from home, though. They've got the 14th best away record in the division at the moment, which isn't the best, and that's not taking into consideration the point deduction either. Gateshead are fairly decent at home, have the 5th best home record in the division, draw an awful amount of games themselves. And because of that, both sides do often draw a lot of games, Southend away and Gateshead at home. I've gone for another 1-1 draw. How do you see it going, Paul?
Well, I've gone for a draw, Luke. So we're very similar in our thought processes. I have gone Gateshead 3, Southend 3. I don't know why. I just feel like they're going to score a lot of goals. They both seem to like to score goals. They both seem to be high on confidence. It's a long journey, isn't it, from the Essex Riviera up to the northwest? But Southend, I think, will be very buoyed by what they've been doing over the last few weeks, considering what they're up against. And Gateshead clearly have refound that form that Rob Elliott's got them playing since he's taken over. So, yeah, Gateshead 3, Southend 3. So
you're not the only one, and it was before you even said it.
Yeah, I just got a feeling there's a lot of goals in these teams, and 3-3.
A lot of people are going for quite high-scoring games. Mr. Luke's coming. Paul, what's he been saying?
So this is going to be a cracking game on paper, but I think, like usual, it'll go to draw, which would be a fair result. But I think we can get a close win. 3-1 to us, away the lads. So, yeah, Mr. Luke's backing his team at home against Southend, but he agrees well that, it could be a draw.
Gateshead have all their back. 3 unavailable, 3-2 to Gateshead, and then Stuart's gone for a 2-2, and then Joe's come in and said Southend
are too strong at the back.
Yeah, they're very good defensively.
Yes, listen, either team could win. It's one of those. They're both banging form, both good football teams. I just can't separate them, and I think they'll both score quite a few goals. So, yeah, I've gone bold with this one as well. My last 3 have been fairly bold compared to what I normally predict, but 3-3 draw on that one.
Hartlepool versus Bromley. This game has quite a lot of history. I believe both sides met in the playoffs a few years ago now, and Hartlepool came on top. Yeah, a few weeks ago, maybe people would have been backing Bromley, definitely 100%. Maybe I'm going against it here. Of course, Hartlepool, unbeaten in 2, went to York, won there, got a point against Kidderminster away. You must think now it's a good opportunity for them, being back at home with a good crowd behind them. It's a good opportunity to get that win at home that they haven't had in quite a long time. They're actually unbeaten prior to that as well against Ebbsfleet at home. So for me, I'm going for a 2-1 Hartlepool win. Bromley are clearly, as you can tell, they're only just winning games, and I know that's how they play, that they're often drawing a lot of games, but they will get defeated at some point. And Hartlepool, like I've said, are a very good side if they turn up. They're just another side that are inconsistent and have had their injury issues at the moment. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 Hartlepool win. What are you thinking, Paul?
I've gone with a Bromley win. I mean, they're going to be smarting from that Aldershot result, aren't they? And being 2-0 up after 4 minutes and losing 3-2 right to death. I know they lost a player in amongst that. So I just think Bromley is going to be a bit too strong for Hartlepool. Hartlepool are slowly improving. You know, they clearly had their injury problems and their goal scoring problems that haven't helped them. They're going to be a little bit buoyed by the fact they've picked up a fair few results that aren't too bad, but they should be one of the big boys in this league, Hartlepool, shouldn't they? And they're clearly not showing that at the moment. And I see Bromley just with their results recently and the strength they have. Both teams are fairly industrial, I think, and Bromley will be the better at it and win 2-0.
We'll move on to the next game then, Maidenhead versus York. Of course, Maidenhead at the moment on good form. Did they play midweek? I'm trying to remember now. If they did, they must no, they didn't actually play midweek. York, of course, did and got that second win at home this season. We didn't think in late November now that they'd only just have recorded their second win at home. I did back it, and they did get the win. They can't get ahead of themselves. Of course, they're trying to get away from the relegation zone at the moment. That's the first object for them. And they're going to a Maidenhead side who are down there, but themselves on pretty good form and have kind of climbed away from it for the time being, haven't they, Paul?
Oh, yeah. Maidenhead still, they continue to defy odds. Whenever we think they're just going to slip, they'll pick a result up. You know, they keep themselves above water, if you like. And yeah, York have shown that improvement with their results. Whether their performances have improved, I don't know. Whether their performances have been good, but haven't, you know, they've not been able to get the results off the back of their performances. Having not seen them, it's difficult to know. But I think Maidenhead will come out of this with a draw. I think it was 1-1. It's another one of those potential 6-pointers. They've got to make sure that they, Maidenhead keep picking up points, and York have got to do the same. So neither of them are going to lose, and that's the difficult thing. When neither team want to lose, then it probably can become quite cagey and defensive. York, without doubt, probably got the better quality, but I think Maidenhead just show that steeliness and resolve, and will get a 1-1 draw.
They did play midweek because they drew with Ebbsfleet, didn't they? And I got 3 points from that as well. Because it wasn't that I actually had that much of a great game week. It's just I had a couple of results that were like quite unpredictable that I backed. So the Oldham game I backed. That's why. But yeah, so pretty happy with that, to be fair. And I
think they'll get another draw, Maidenhead. It'll be another 1-1 draw.
I'm going to go different. I'm going to go for a 1-0 York win. Maidenhead often struggle, don't they, against sides that are down there? They do better against the sides that were up there. If you think of the wins that they've recorded, they've all been against sides that are, down above them in the league, really. David won't like that because I always go against Maidenhead, and this might be one of the game weeks where you'd think I'd be in Maidenhead's favour. But yeah, I'm going to back York for this one. I did back you against Ebbsfleet, to be fair. For a draw at least. And then we've got Oldham versus Ebbsfleet then. A game that, I spoke about briefly before we got on to the predictions. Of course, Oldham are on good form at the moment. It's well aware. They're not that good at home, though, overall, Oldham. If you look back throughout the season, they've got the most draws in the league than any other side. Of course, Ebbsfleet at the moment are probably the side that are out of form the most in the division, but managed to pick up a point in midweek against Maidenhead at home. You've got to think, Oldham, look, we've just got a good result against Barnet. Prior to that, we went to work in 2 trips very far down south and we've took maximum points. We're back at home against Ebbsfleet now. Clearly, we're going to go on and win this. But knowing Oldham, it's what they do. They'd end up dropping points to a side like Ebbsfleet. And, Oldham like to play this quite long ball style since Mellon's come in and hoof it up to Norwood. And against an Ebbsfleet side that are going to probably turn up and put 11 men behind the ball, is it going to be effective? Paul, how do you see this one going?
I think there's only one winner in this, and it would be Oldham. Ebbsfleet are scratching around for results. Like you said, they're out of form. They lost Billy Clifford a couple of games ago in for a red card, so he's not going to be available. It's one of their more creative midfield players. I can't see past Oldham winning. I think Oldham will win 3-1. I think it'll be very comfortable for them. The thing with Oldham, right, is that when David Unsworth was in charge, it appeared like it felt like the fans weren't having him at all. And they didn't give him an inch, and it felt toxic is probably too strong a word, but just were they getting behind their team? They're going to go up there to Boundary Park now. They buoyed by a 4-1 win against a promotion contender in Barnet, and like I said before, they're slowly improving, and I think the quality of the likes of Norwood and Lundstrom, it's just going to be too much for Ebbsfleet, and they'll win 3-1, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's by more, to be honest.
I'm going to go against you because there's knowing Oldham and the way they are, they'll go to places like Barnet and work and they'll get a result, and then they'll probably bottle it at home. And I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Ebbsfleet, are going to pick a result up at some point, a good result. Of course, needing it at home ain't the end of the world, but you need to start winning games. They're not very good away, Ebbsfleet either, but knowing Oldham, the way that they are at the moment, when you just start to think they've turned a corner, hopefully this will be the week that proves me wrong. But I know every time we thought, they've got a good win there, Oldham, I think now they're now back at home. I think they're going to win this game. They don't, and I think this will be another example of that. If they don't, then I'll hold my hands up because there's nothing in Ebbsfleet's favour at all. But I just, knowing Oldham, it'd be a result where they drop points at home against an Ebbsfleet side, especially with the way how they play. I look at Halifax, and probably the reason that we struggled at home earlier on in the season, and probably still do overall, is the fact that when sides come to us, we're the side that we're expected to dominate the football and create the chances. And we, sides make it hard for us to create those chances because they defend very well when they come to us. We're away from home, we're the side that's defending, and we catch them on the break. But someone said, hope you're wrong, Lukey boy. Let's hope so, from your perspective anyway. But yeah, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Next game then is Oxford versus Kidderminster. Last chance for Kidderminster, is it? The last chance where you've got to think, look, we need to win at some point. We're better away than we are at home. Clearly, we need to go to Oxford, and we don't need to just get a point, but we need to win. How do you see it going, Paul?
I think this one boils down to something very simple, and people may not agree, but Oxford can score goals, Kidderminster can't. I think Oxford are going to win 2-0. I think that's what it boils down to. Yeah. Okay. You've got a little advantages. Oxford play on 3G. They're at home. They've won 2 out of the last 5. Kidderminster have drawn 2 out of the last 5. I can't see past an Oxford City win. I think they've got to look at this. The management team are going to be looking at results and saying, this is one that we have to win and pick up points from if we're going to survive in this league. And, looking at what the predictions are, apart from Chris, who's put Kiddie 1-0, I think most people are going with Oxford. I can't see much past that at all. And I think they'll win comfortably 2-0.
David's coming in actually backed.
He has, yeah.
As well. 1-0. Someone else has come in. 1-1 we've had. Declan's come in. I can't read it, Paul. Sorry.
He says Oxford 3, Kiddie 1. Kiddie are truly awful. Oxford are a decent passing team and should have enough. I completely agree with you, Declan. I can't comment on how bad Kiddie are because I haven't seen them play enough. Stats talk for themselves. Was it 13 goals in 20 odd games? So, they're clearly not great up top or scoring goals as a team. So, Oxford are really good football inside. McEachran and Josh Parker, if they're on form. Just signed the big lad from Bromley on loan that was at Maidenhead. His name escapes me. So they're going to defensively they're going to tighten up with him in their ranks. So listen, I think Oxford will win comfortably 2-0.
I'm going to go for an Oxford 4-0 win against Kidderminster. They score an awful amount of goals. Oxford. They're not an awful side when I've seen them, to be fair, but you know, Cole Kopeka, yeah, he's gone to Oxford, isn't he now, and he scored the other day as well. And that adds, this is the difference, isn't it? Oxford have noticed, look, defensively, that's where sides are catching us out at the moment. Boom, we go to Bromley, where we've got a proven defender that we can bring in and bring him on loan, where he did it at Maidenhead, and he knows how to keep a side in this division because he's been coached under Alan Devonshire. And that's the difference. Kidderminster, they haven't particularly brought anyone in. They've brought Ben Tollett in, who I think is a good signing, but there's no point having a good creative player if you don't have a player, when he's putting it on a plate for a player, they're not going to finish it. And that's what Maidenhead need to find. They need to find a striker very shortly. And it doesn't look like they've got much intensity to do that at the moment, does it?
No, not at all. And if you're not scoring goals and you go 1-0 down, you're probably going to lose the game. So I think, like I said, Oxford have got much more quality going forward than Kidderminster have in respect to the level they are in the league. And I genuinely can't see Kiddie winning. Oxford will just be too strong for them.
I know Josquin Hobson as well. Yeah, he's added something. You know, when they went on a couple of games, didn't they, where they were getting a few good results. They played quite well against us, I thought, from what I'd seen of them previously. I was quite impressed, especially defensively, and he looked very good. But they need a striker because on that day, I don't particularly think we played well. And I think a better team would have got back in the game, but they didn't take the chances. Final game then, North London derby. Who needs? Is it Arsenal-Chelsea? That's a North London derby, isn't it?
Arsenal-Tottenham.
Arsenal-Tottenham. Who needs Arsenal-Tottenham when you've got Wealdstone versus Barnet? What a game this is, because, of course, the history behind it as well. And I think what makes it interesting from your perspective is Barnet are on the worst form they've been on this season, and you're probably playing Barnet at the best time you possibly could, aren't you?
No, I completely agree, Luke. You know, the things that are going in Wealdstone's favour when you look at it is they're at home. They've lost one in whatever is 11 or 12 at home this season. They've only lost to Dagenham and Redbridge at home. Barnet are on their worst run of form, 3 losses. Shipped 10 goals, so there's got to be hope for them, you know, offensively. Wealdstone offensively, yeah. Listen, I'd like to think Wealdstone are going to win 2-1, and I probably wouldn't have said that a couple of weeks ago, and I probably wouldn't be saying it if we were playing it down at the Hive. I just looking at it, we're going into it, being the fact that we're at home. The fact that Barnet are struggling at the moment, but they're still a very good football team. There's no two ways about that. There should be a good crowd, 2,500 there. You know, I'd like to say Wealdstone are going to win 2-1, but I'm not massively confident over that. But I think they will.
Yeah. Thing is, the different thing is about Wealdstone is and how they both play quite similar, don't they? They're both quite good going forward, but defensively is where you exploit them. I thought when Wealdstone came to the Shea, I thought they want an awful side. They just would put, like you mentioned on Monday's podcast, pour in both boxes. And it did feel like at times you overplayed it. Maybe you could have taken that opportunity to shoot when you were basically trying to pass it into the net. And, you know, a game like this against Barnet, you know, with your home form, Barnet will probably be like, oh no, we don't want to go. We don't want to play a rival who are very good at home at this point when we're on the worst form we've been on this season. For me, I think it'll be a bit of a firecracker, especially with both sides being quite poor defensively, but good going forward. I'm going to go for a 3-3 draw. Maybe a bit out there, but with Chesterfield versus Barnet prediction was out there. And I think we are guaranteed goals for this game. It is a good game that that TNT Sports have picked here, and it should be an interesting one. But I think Barnet will probably be looking at this and thinking, look, Wealdstone are probably more suited to how we play because it's a game of 2 good footballing sides. It's not a side. We're not going to Wealdstone where Wealdstone are going to put 11 men behind the ball. They're going to try out players. So it should be an entertaining game. Jordan has come in and he said, it comes up here. I'm a Bees fan. Wednesday was awful. Big switch up needed. Otherwise, Wealdstone will do us over. 2-1 Bees. think the most wraps it up. Anything you want to add there, Paul, just on the game or?
No, I was just he's hoping for a better game week for me, so I don't. I'm still within 10 points of you next week, Luke. But no, I'm looking forward to it. It's the first time I've seen Wealdstone play in a number of weeks on Saturday due to different reasons. So back at the Vale, be looking forward to watching them and seeing how my predictions do. But some interesting games this week. Matchups at the top end and bottom end. So we'll see the league table changing a little bit, I think, after Saturday at 4:45. Yeah,
hopefully Halifax find themselves back in the playoffs after we do Aldershot over in their own backyard. Also, for those that are still with us, please remember to like and subscribe. I know there probably is, and I've seen quite a lot of new people or new to comment in the live chat tonight. So if you are new, please remember to subscribe and also like, as it gets it out to more people. Look, this is a place where you get to have your say on the National League in the comments with other people and have discussions there as well. And of course, those two just waffle away for an hour and a half or so every week about all the predictions and all the other stuff going on within the National League. So it would be appreciated if you did subscribe. And we do hope to see you all next week. Paul, once again, thank you for tuning in tonight. It is appreciated.
No problem, Luke.
Joining me, yeah.
Thanks for having me.
No, it's great to have you back on the podcast, and good luck to your side again against Barnet on Saturday, and let's hope Halifax can win.
Well, I've predicted them to lose, Luke, so they probably will. They probably will win.
That, Paul. We've had a bit of a deal, haven't we now? But yeah. So anyway, thank you to everyone that's tuned in, and we will see you next Thursday. Bye for now.